Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the SCA Coaches Corner. It's our Friday night live episode. Had a bit of a change up this week from a bit of a unforeseen scheduling issue with some of the guests we were going to have on tonight. So we're changing up from the East Kingdom's Heroes and Traditions, and we're going to be discussing the top 3 things that new fighters, mistakes they tend to make. And so welcome, everybody. Tonight for our coaches, we have Duke Brannos, Viscount Sagan, and Duke Aighleanan, as well as myself, Viscount Tristan. So we will get this lined up, and we'll have Brannos get us started.
All right.
Welcome.
So as Tristan said, we're going to start looking at doing a few shorter episodes. We find that a lot of times, even just individual coaches in one of our longer episodes kind of grabs onto maybe one small topic and wants to talk more about it. So we're going to take some of these kind of one-shot episodes and look at doing that, recording them, maybe not making them live. We may ask for some input. We also probably going to reach out to some of the people that participate in SCA Coaches Corner and just pull some people in to do really maybe a half-hour, 45-minute video on that topic that maybe we didn't get enough time on. Or that one that really interested us and we want to get more depth into. So tonight we thought we'd introduce that. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting a few of those out. I know I have a couple of topics I want to kind of get out there and make people think about. And I'm sure we all kind of have that. So tonight, since we kind of pivoted really quick here, we thought we'd bring this one live, give it a first try, and see if any of us long talkers can actually shorten our talks and make it through in 35 or 40 minutes. So let's see if we can do it. Tonight's topic is each of us kind of came up with the 3 things that we noticed first off, in a fighter that's in the list. Like, what are the topic was, what are the 3 things that usually need to be fixed that we look at all the time? So we're going to kind of cover those real quick. And I think we'll start with Aighleanan.
Well, good evening, everyone, and happy holidays. I know we're moving into the holiday season, so if I forget to say on one of our later episodes, I've said it once at least, so happy holidays. My number 3 thing that I see newer fighters bring to the field, I'm going to call this one bringing the pale to the field. And this can take a lot of different shapes. One of the shapes that it can be is that, you've been working and practicing on your pale and, you feel like you're picking up some good shots, some good muscle memory, and then you take that to the field and it turns out the person you're fighting won't stand still. So you didn't actually pick up a lot of the timing involved in how to throw certain shots. Another way that you can see, this happen is, especially when you're new, is if you go start working on shots on a pale, perhaps you go build one, perhaps you just wrap some foam around a pole or a tree and you're taking an old stick and you're working it. If you're not actually working good technique, then what you're learning are bad habits to begin with. So oftentimes you'll see someone bring a shot that they've been working on their pale, but they haven't had an experienced coach, an experienced fighter work with them to correct the mechanics of that shot. And so you'll see it and that will bring some frustrations. And I think the common thread you'll see on all of our things is the mistakes that the mistakes that we're going to point out, they create frustration in fighters, new fighters and experienced fighters alike. So we're going to see if we can just bring light to some of that and then trim them. So that's my number 3. Does anyone have any variations on the theme they want to add to that?
No, I think that's a pretty good start to kind of the things that you look at. I know. Nice. I'm gonna just shoot 3 out, and that way we can leave Sagan with a little more time because we know he likes running on. Not Sagan's to the point. I would have loved Sagan as my trainer for a long time because he beats like get better. Anyways, I'm gonna cover my 3 before I forget, because to tell you the truth, I'm having a hard time remembering each. The three things I see kind of fighters do, especially new fighters, is and some older fighters, they go into that list and they start literally in range. You cannot, on lay-on, you cannot prepare yourself fast enough for somebody else that is actually prepared and ready to go. So a lot of times it's like, you're waiting there and you're at the race car track, and you're looking for that 3 beeps or the checkered flag to start the race, and you're too late. And it's a simple way to stop that from happening, and that is set up, take 1 step back, and make sure your range is at a place where if your opponent throws something, you don't have to worry about it, or you can be in a space that they have to step before throwing, or any of those pieces where you have time to actually block the shot. I think this is one of those things I see over and over again. I especially see it in fights, even in pickup. You have to be careful of this. Is like, good, and then you stop for a second. You're right next to each other, and then it's like, okay, and then the guy hits you again. It's like, well, did I really start? Did I not start? But it doesn't matter. You lost again. So if you're making bad practice even in pickup like that, then you're going to do it in tournaments as well. So just be aware of that. And I may be doing this all wrong, so I'll apologize. My second one of my 3 is focus. I oftentimes, we go out and I see a fighter step onto the field, and I see this all the time. And they look at me, or they're stepping on with wrong Valder, and literally their focus goes from I'm going to fight to, oh, I'm going to lose. And I'm going to tell you, if your focus is not on believing in yourself and believing in the techniques you learned and the practice that you've put in and the time and effort you put in, then it's next to impossible to make the next step forward. I'm going to tell you, it doesn't even matter if it's wrong Valder out there, or myself, or some other great fighter, the king. Even if you lose that fight, but you block a couple shots, you have good movement, you're engaged, and you provide them with something other than, oh, I'm going to lose, step out there. It's like, I tell you, on my side, it's one of the things I hate the most. It's like, I'm going to lose. Well, already I feel like, wait, you're not giving me your best fight? Make me do something. And you make me do something, I will get excited, and especially for you. Because I'm like, ooh, that was nice. Look at this guy. Yeah, maybe he's 6 months in, but man, that was a good slide out, or he has fast hands, whatever, as long as you have that good focus. The last one that I see that, and I see this both out of new and old fighters, and even knights, and this is the one that kills me the most, and that is controlling your energy. We all want that boost, right? We all want that adrenaline. And I'm going to tell you, adrenaline, it needs to be very short. That fight needs to be, it needs to be controlled, well planned, understood. You need to be in a place of clarity, and then you burst into those small adrenaline bursts into throws, multiple throws, a combination, some type of movement, and then you're back. Unfortunately, we have so many people that just, you throw and then they're not done until they hit something or they get hit. So, I just mentioned to somebody today, I mean, one of the easy ways to stop yourself from doing something like this is give yourself 3 shots in a fight. Don't tell your opponent right away, but give yourself 3 shots in a fight. Work your feet, work your range, work your control. And then remember, if you don't hit them in those 3 shots, set yourself as you didn't succeed in your goal. And this is especially good for really the fighters that are trying to get to that next level, because the more time that you can spend trying to visualize and see where, like, I got 3 shots, I better make these count, the better you will get at placing your opponent into a position and then taking advantage of it. All right, that's my 3. Who wants to go next? Sagan's up. He unmuted. All right, you're live.
I think Tristan just volunteered me. That's okay. So unlike Brannos, I will follow the rules. And my number 3 is that, so we're talking about fighters that stretch across from beginners to within 1 year. So somewhere in that 12-month period. And number 3 for me is the fact that over that time, they still show up to practice and tournament with armor and weapons that are mismatched to them. They're too heavy, they're too light. The armor doesn't fit right. And it's one of those things where as we've already mentioned a couple of times, when you're trying to train yourself, right, and you're doing your Pell work and you're wearing that armor, or you're using that 3-pound sword, right, it is one of those things that you are hampering yourself, knowingly or unknowingly, into gaining the experience of, oh, this is how it should feel. And then coupling that with the fact that you're doing the Pell work with no assistance, just compounds the issue. So that would be my number 3 is, make sure you're in the right armor and the right weapons for you.
All right. Yeah, this is, I like the format we're going at here, which is to list off our top 3, because I think that there are certain things each of us have seen over the years and seen quite a bit. In fact, it was a bit of a challenge to come up with only 3. But some of the basic ones that I look for, my number 3, and this could be number 1 just as easily, but my number 3 is aiming shots directly into something that's already protected. Like the first shot goes right into the middle of a shield, or right into a pole arm haft or something that's in the way of the target. And this stems from an impatience, where you feel like you're not going to win unless you throw shots. So you might as well start throwing shots, even though there's nothing to hit. And I wanted to also offer a solution for the things that I noticed were a problem. And that is, be patient enough to watch and study and look at what you are throwing into. If you're throwing a shot, it should be to a helmet, to an arm, to a leg, to a target. So don't be so impatient that you just want to throw shots for the sake of throwing shots, with the thinking that it's going to be a shot that will end the fight in your favor. Although that's true, it's not. Just wasting shots that aren't going to land is going to be a waste of your time and energy. To address Brannos's point, throwing shots takes energy. It will exhaust you. If you keep pounding away on a target that is not exposed, you will do nothing but wear yourself out, and you won't be able to hit an opening that actually does present itself. So my recommendation is be patient. All right, I guess we'll go back to Brannos. Kind of blew his wad.
Yeah, I was gonna say you did that be patient thing because of me. I get this feel.
It's not all about you, Brannos.
Wow, I didn't have to say it this time.
Oh, there you go. See, I'm willing to take the bruises. Let's jump to Aighleanan, and we'll go to his number 2.
All right. So I'm sitting here beating myself up trying to only get 3. It turns out I hate everything that new fighters do. Maybe I'm just gotten old and I'm not happy anymore with life. So I was going to have for my number 2, the mistake that bothers me is when new fighters are really focused on just hitting rather than not getting hit. And I think that's just because my personal preference is you should shore up your defense and your guard and your understanding of range before you start working on trying to hit people. But that is a personal taste. If our good buddy Sean was here, he'd be like, no, hitting's good. And I think that's great. So I really think that is a matter of taste. So instead, I'm going to pick something that actually really super annoys me. And that's fighters who go to practice or go to a tourney or go to an event, and they're really only paying attention to their fights and maybe the finals. There is so much to learn with everything that's going on at practice. Watching people doing drills is an opportunity for you to learn, even if you physically can't get out there and do them. Watching all the sparring at practice is a way to start training your brain to, if you can see things in real time, you will eventually be able to react in real time. But if you're never actually putting your brain through its paces of trying to understand what's going on with the fighting and constantly analyzing and trying to work on, ways to improve, if you're watching someone, you're trying to think of, well, what would I do if I was that person? What would I do if that was that person? You get your brain working at a speed fast enough to be able to realize that, then you're actually going to be able to apply it in your fights. So one of my major annoyances, and I think a mistake that new fighters, old fighters, everyone makes, is they're not paying attention to the absolute wealth of information that's being presented to them, and that is watching everyone else fight.
I think that goes back to one of your early episodes, like almost maybe your first episode you joined us, when you kind of coined it, man. Take your time. There's no shot clock. And I thought that it was like the greatest answer. I use it all the time now.
I've actually stopped a guy in the middle of a fight before, and I said, how much time is left? I like pointed over. I said, look at the shot clock over there. How much time is left? And they're like, I don't see one. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah, I love it. And everyone I've mentioned it to, they really, they laugh every time as well. So it's just one of those great episodes.
And that just pays back into the whole, if you're learning how to analyze fights when you're watching fighting, and then if you're actually in the fight, you can take your time to learn and figure out how to do the fight and let the fight tell you how to win it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess it's oh wait, it's not my turn. I already said all my stuff I had to say. So
I think we should make Brannos have more.
Oh my
Great
God.
idea.
I could talk forever, but I'm going to go back to my number two piece, and that is that belief. And I think we just had an episode the other day. One of the mind episodes was you have to that space after you're done learning the physical pieces. You have to help your students be confident and in what they do, and I think we see that inside of a fight all the time. And so just make sure again, another great episode we had that we talked about those, and that was only a couple of weeks ago. Take a time out, listen to them if you can, but I think that believing in yourself is just as important as the physical ability to do something. So, Sagan.
All right. So my number two is something that I've seen over the years, and that's in this area here especially. The fighters sometimes are very unforgiving of themselves, right? Why can't I do this? How come Bob can do this and I can't do this? I've been fighting longer than Steve and I should be better. And in most cases, it turns out they're comparing apples to oranges, right? The fighters they're comparing themselves to may have trainers. The fighters they're comparing themselves to may go to practice and ask a lot of questions and get a lot of special information, as was said before. They sit there, they watch, right? They keep a journal. So many times, they're dejected, and you go over to talk to them. It's like, well, what's going on for you? I feel I should be doing much better than I am doing, and with a little bit of coaching and a little bit of friendly persuasion, if you will, then, we go, why are you here? Are you here to have fun? Yeah. Okay. So, and you want to get better. Okay. Well, there's a number of us here that can help you with both of those. So, and I encourage them to, because what they've done is they've locked themselves in their own cell. And so you assist them to break out of that cell, even if you have to, say, come with me. And you take them over to a bunch of guys and say, hey, I need somebody to work with this individual, every odd Wednesday. And so who's going to help me out here? And all of a sudden they haven't got just you assisting them, right? Mentally and physically, they've got a host of people. So they know for a fact that at the next practice, they can go talk to me, or they could go talk to these three other individuals. And you know, you do the best you can to get them out of those doldrums as fast as possible.
All right. That's a good one. It's kind of that mental side of not standing in your own way or putting yourself in your own way. My number two, and this one just makes my teeth itch when I see it. And that is plotting footwork. Now, normally when people walk, they'll as they take a step forward, they put their heel down and then the rest of the foot comes down, and they're used to walking like this all the time, which means they're practicing it constantly. It's bad footwork in fighting. It's very slow. It's very cumbersome. Fighters tend to get planted and they can't move, because oftentimes in that first year you get overwhelmed. Your things are flying at your head. You're not thinking about your feet. But I think there's another influence there too, and that is your body is now weighed down with a whole bunch of extra weight, and your brain says, I can't move because I'm so encumbered. I have all this extra weight and I'm just slow. Well, part of going through training and training your footwork is to get your body used to the extra weight, but also being more agile, not going heel toe stepping and plodding your body along, but actually moving somewhat briskly and being able to move every direction smoothly, very quickly. And that doesn't mean you have to go jumping around or running around, but not moving in such a way that you're just kind of plodding along like an elephant. And I've seen videos of practices where everybody's moving like that. And I think this addresses a bit of Sagan's issue with, they go out with a shield that weighs 12 pounds. They go out with a sword that weighs 3 pounds. They go out with an overweight helmet with a camail on it that weighs, 30 pounds. And the body armor weighs, a ridiculous amount. And their whole brain just thinks, oh my gosh, it's everything I can do just to hold myself up. And the process that first year is usually pretty rough. There are not many people that buy a really good, well-fitting harness that's made for their movement yet. They're still borrowing gear. Maybe they made it themselves. Maybe they overmade it a bit. I'm guilty of that myself in the past many times, of making gear that was just not well tuned for performance. And that doesn't mean light. It means well balanced, fitted well, mounted on your body correctly, all these things. And we have episodes in how to tune your equipment. We had one we did a couple of months ago about the gear, all the way from your helmet, body armor, leg armor, things. You don't want to be fighting your equipment. You want it to be working with you. And so this is something that I can't blame new people for new fighters for having this, because it thoroughly makes sense. But it's a habit that I've seen is very hard to break once you start getting gear that is well tuned for you. That habit of setting the heel down and the foot falls next, it just does not work very well for most fighters. There's a few that can make it work, but usually they make up for it by being really strong with some other tools. But that's my number two. So let's go back to Aighleanan. Your number one.
My number one. My number one is similar, I think, to Sagan's. So my number one is new fighters set their expectations too high. And I think I can actually say that a little differently. But first, one of the life lessons that I got from my knight Sir Gwydion many moons ago, somewhere back in the 80s. I was frustrated about something, and he said it's in almost every situation where you're frustrated about something, it's because something's not meeting your expectations. In this particular instance, my expectations were too high. And he's not saying you should settle. He's saying manage your expectations in a way that's constructive to being able to, to achieve things and to feel good about yourself. So, if I say that one of the things that bothers me is people are setting their expectations too high, it's because it's creating a horrible sense of frustration in people. They're getting unhappy. They could quit I've seen people quit because, they were expecting to be better than, you know, than they were at the time. And it was because they had set an unrealistic expectations. My belief is that you set realistic expectations with manageable milestones and you continue to work your way up. It's not about being good instantly. It's about being on the path to prowess. And as everyone here will attest to, being on the path to prowess is a lifetime journey, not a something you can just pick and say, I'm going to go hit that. If you're doing it right, you're on this path forever. So don't be in a big hurry. Set realistic expectations, realistic milestones, goals that you can actually achieve. And if it's like, I want to be a tourney winner, it's like, okay, great, I appreciate that, but let's break that down into realistic goals, also manageable goals that we can get to first. Like, let's be better at your defense, let's be better at your understanding of range. Set goals that can help you achieve ultimately at some point, I want to be a tourney winner. But that's a fairly common and unrealistic goal for most fighters. Only one person wins every damn tournament. And, I know we all want to be in that club, but that's a hard club to get into. It's also not what you should be hanging all of your happiness on. Your sense of self-worth and satisfaction as a fighter should be in hitting attainable things, feeling good about it, setting new ones, challenging yourself, and working to get to those things. That's if you're going to find happiness on this path, it's going to be in setting goals for yourself that you can achieve and then pushing them out and setting higher goals and then setting higher goals, not just saying, I want to be really good. I have to be really good right now. All right, that's mine.
Hey, first thing I'm going to say is the good part that I really dig your new graphics, and thanks for putting out the list. Yeah, that's a super good point on your goal part and setting that realistic goal and having that idea of I have to win a tournament. That's a lot of pressure that leads you, really kind of hurts you in your fight in the long run, right? I mean, because it's not about how well you fight, it's about how you win, and that's not necessarily a great thing. So I think that was a really enjoyable number one from you. So I'm going to cover a little, and we're kind of driving towards the end here anyways. I'm going to cover just a tiny bit on energy control. That was my number one. I did it fast, but I think some of that comes with comfortability, and some of that it comes with those goals. If you're like, I got to win, a lot of times that just drives you into higher energy, and then you just out there trying to pound something down, and you lose that control of your own energy. So I'm, and a number of the topics we talk about kind of fills that gap, where we learn to control our energy as we're more confident in ourselves. We read those fights better. We know our range better, and we believe in ourselves. And that's, I think a huge part, but it is definitely not easy to get there. So you have to bite it, kind of chew it in small spaces. And so, some of that energy control is like, okay, I'm only going to, in this fight, I'm only going to throw 2 shots in a row before disengaging and then re-engaging. I tell a lot of people, realistically, what are your best throws? Usually it's your first, second, or third blow. After that, you start losing control. You start even losing control of your own energy. So by just doing a certain amount of blows and resetting not only your offense, but your defense as well, you come back into the fight with a good defense and a good offense again, your best blows again. So by repeating that over and over again, it gives you the ability to make sure that you're throwing at good things, your control is there, and that you can reevaluate even in between those sets of blows. So, all right, Sagan.
Okay, so my number one pet peeve, and it's been the same for very long time is that a lot of fighters in this gap and fighters past this gap, to be honest, have a true lack of understanding how the basic aspects of fighting work. Things like range, right? And body movement in order to accomplish that range. You know, offense and being able to accomplish offense and defense in the same moment, right? And get away from, kill, don't die mode, right? Things like that. The economy of effort you can use in combat. Again, more basics. Knowing a target is open, not that it might be open, and not throwing something at a target that's definitely not open. And the understanding of offense and defense being equally important. Again, get away from kill, don't die. But a lot of times, when you're talking to people, it becomes obvious when you start in on range and you start in on how all of these pieces come together in order to form that idea of, I see a target, the target will be open when, and if you're going to do a body movement, and I have a blow selected for it, right? But to a lot of them, they're going to go out there and they're just going to wing it, right? And their repertoire of shots and defenses will prove to you that that's right where they are. They're in that kill, don't die mode. So they've ignored the mental and physical training required, as well as having a lack of understanding of how fighting works.
Ding, ding. Nice job. I would agree 100%.
All right. So I guess I'm the last one out. I've got my number one, and this takes us right back to the very first episode that we covered, very first topic we covered on Coach's Corner, and that is the need for speed. Fighters doing everything they can to just move as fast as possible. They want the sword as fast as possible. They want their shield to move as fast as possible. They want to move their body as fast as possible. And this touches to what Brannos was talking about in terms of energy management. If you're running up and down the field, running all over and swinging your sword and maneuvering your shield all over the place all the time, you're just spending a whole lot of energy. But I can understand. And I definitely, if you feel like this may be you, definitely go check out our first episode, The Need for Speed, because we talk about it's timing that is what will defeat speed. If you are getting killed because your opponents are faster than you are, try to avoid getting into, I just need to go faster. Everything I need to do is going faster. The price you will pay for going faster, it's going to be harder on your body. It's going to take it out on your joints. You're probably going to throw yourself off balance. And the biggest one is you're going to do very shallow breathing, because you're going to speed up your breathing too, which means you're not getting enough oxygen, which means you're going to exhaust yourself faster. There's so many things bad that will come to your fighting by just trying to rush and get the fight over as quickly as possible. And that could come down to just throwing the fastest shot that you can by adding more muscle into your shot mechanic. The success for getting a smooth shot is what creates a fast shot. When you create a smooth shot, it's because you've cut away all that extra tension and all the extra muscle and exertion that really is you getting in the way of you throwing a smooth blow. Build the smooth first before you try for the speed. With that, you can breathe better, then you can think better, then you can move better. All these things come together when you back off of that speed and try not to just go, light speed all the time. So that's my first one. I think that's probably one I've seen the most new people really get seduced into, is just trying to go faster with everything.
So, that was great stuff, except for me screwing up. You guys were awesome. I really enjoyed listening to each of those. And I think it's kind of funny. We were kind of talking about digging into something, but I think in a lot of ways, we kind of just, sometimes we dig in so much, we lose what the main topic was. And in this case, it was nice to be able to share, some of those pieces so that people can think about those on a simple, really easy level, and then maybe dig back through some of our past episodes to try to find some of those, some of these topics that we're talking about. For everybody out there, if this will be posted up in a little bit, if you do want to know more about some of these topics, post which ones, and we'll find the episodes for you and answer you back. And to tell you the truth, if there's not an episode, and I think these were all topic worthy, we will probably add it as an episode in the future, because and really dig into it for you. I think this is again, this is the kind of thing that we want to do. We want to be able to help people, and we need to get that feedback from you. So we're really looking forward to that. Going into next week, so we're going to reschedule the Eastern Heroes and Traditions episode, but going into next week, we got overcoming fear of fighting a knight or royal peer. I think it's really, it's overcoming that fear of fighting somebody better, or maybe way better than you think you are, because that goes back into believing in yourself. And if you can figure out how to kind of put that in the back of your mind and still present your best fight, I think you end up with a better fight all the time. So, Tristan, you have anything else?
No, I want to thank everybody. We're trying out at this new format, so we're looking forward to hearing what you think about it. We know sometimes an hour and a half episode might be kind of long, and we dig into some deep details. We figured that this top three kind of format might be a good way to get some bit more broad topics together in a little more concise format. So feel free to let us know what you think. If you like this, we've got some other top three list episode ideas that you'll probably see in here before too long.
Awesome. Well, we thank everybody out there for coming and are watching the video. If you're watching it after, we hope that everybody has a great holiday. I hope that everybody stays safe. And Aighleanan, Sagan, Tristan, thank you very much for throwing this together at the last second. And
Definitely my pleasure.
Yeah, it was great. So we will see everybody next week, and have a great weekend.
Yep. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Good night,
everybody.
everyone.